Big interview with Rihanna. She finally opened up about her experience with domestic abuse with then boyfriend R&B star Chris Brown. And remember this, we've got pictures from that night back in 2009. Rihanna and Chris had gotten into a heated argument while driving home from a pre-Grammy party. And according to police, it escalated into a violent attack, and Chris Brown was arrested for assault and then pleaded guilty. But see, now Rihanna is opening up about how she really feels about Chris Brown even now, and this is what she talked to Oprah about last night. And you really might be surprised with Rihanna's take on the situation.
And I felt protective. Like, I felt like the only person they hate right now is him. It was a weird, confusing space to be in, because as angry as I was, as angry and hurt and betrayed, I just felt like he made that mistake because he needed help. And like, who's going to help him? Nobody's going to say he needs help. Everybody's going to say he's a monster without looking at the source. And I was more concerned about him.
It's obviously really hard on her right now.
Still very hard on her. And you may be surprised that she still has feelings for him, that they have worked on their friendship, she has said.
Well, and the rumors have been flying around that they're back together.
And they are not.
Yeah, she addressed that, but she still considers him to be her best friend.
And that she still loves him, and said in the interview with Oprah that she always will. Now, he's in a relationship. She is not. It was amazing how open Rihanna was, that she said when she sees him, her stomach drops. She still gets butterflies.
She's still in love with him.
She's still in love with him. Professional counselor Lindsay Walden joins us now with her take on Rihanna's response. Good morning to you, Lindsay.
Morning, Carol.
Now, a lot of people, when it happened, everybody was so upset with Chris Brown, but to hear Rihanna now say that I lost my best friend, that I cared about him, that's very surprising to hear.
I can understand that, and I think it's probably surprising for a lot of people to hear. Ultimately, what happens, though, is that type of violence and abuse doesn't normally happen at the beginning of a relationship, and it's had a long period of time to kind of build in smaller, more coercive ways, so that by the time something like that happens, feelings are involved, and it feels like a really deep connection. And so in that moment, not only is it the shock of what happened, but now the one person she thought she could go to no longer seems available.
And surprising, too, when she discussed the fact that she had forgiven him. Oprah asked her, you know, many people saw that picture, they saw the abuse and felt that when he hit you it was unforgivable. And she said she has forgiven him.
Sure, and I think really, you know, that's not something that every person who's been in that situation will necessarily get to a place of forgiveness. I think what it did sound like when I watched the full show yesterday evening, she really did do a lot of work on figuring out patterns and cycles of violence in her own life and with her own father and these types of things that I think really do play a role sometimes in how we can heal.
And I just kept thinking as I was watching the entire interview, because she, as you mentioned, Lindsay, she talked about her father and the abuse that she witnessed her father assault her own mother. Chris Brown has seen the same thing. But I'm sure a lot of people feel like, oh, if I was in that situation, I would leave him. But we know relationships survive a lot of things, right?
Sure, and I think the other thing is that when someone says, well, if I was in that situation, and I think at one point Oprah kind of said that on the interview, if I was in that situation, I would just leave, or I wouldn't feel that way. And it's so hard to conceptualize that, because if it did happen on a first date, or if it did happen, you know, early on, it might be easier to leave. It might be easier to not have that connection that keeps people going back. That's why it's a cycle of violence a lot of times.
Were you surprised to hear her say that she still loves him?
No, not really. I mean, I can understand that there's reason she's staying at bay and she's not going into that, but the heart loves what the heart loves, and it sounds like she's trying to figure out what to do with those feelings, because when she sees him, she said she has to keep a poker face, and I think that's a big, big deal, and she's trying to protect herself, but also loving someone who she can't be with.
So good, Lindsay. Thank you very much. It was an eye-opening interview. You can find a link to Lindsay's website, by the way, at greatdaystlouis.com.
Well, have you ever had a dream that you just could not get out of your head and let go?